Hey, beloveds, how are you doing? I am back. My name is Moji Sola Adu, also known as Lush on LushRadioOnline.net. And I am the founder and CEO of She Wins Network, empowering women through their journey. And we have a global group of women all across the globe. And the women here are women doing amazing impact, doing amazing things in their community. They come from housewives, CEOs to healers, all different diverse backgrounds. And we share love and we encourage each other. And this month is Women's Month, but every day we're a woman and we're always impacting the society and a community. So I wanted to highlight a lot of amazing women that are doing amazing things to impact their community. Today, we have the wonderful Rachel Allen. She is an outstanding healer. She is an author. She is a healer through music, doing yoga. She has worked with prisons. She's worked with schools. She's worked with community centers. She's a big advocate for the LGBTQIA plus community. She's an amazing mom and friend and a big inspiration to me and many others. She has changed so many with her voice, and you're going to hear some of her amazing stylings today um, on her harp. She can play many instruments actually. But before we bring Rachel in, we're going to pull today's affirmation, and we're going to talk with Rachel about all the amazing things that she's doing today. Today's affirmation says, "The more I honor my inner light, the more I brighten the world I choose to shine." Don't dim your light for anyone. This is your time to shine. Even if they said there were kooky ideas or ideas that wouldn't work, they are working now. Remember when things were unorthodox, but now they're our regular norm? So no idea is crazy. Go ahead and shine bright. Let's go ahead and bring the phenomenal Rachel Allen live in the building, and let's talk to her about the amazing work she is doing in the community. Hey!
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Excellent.
All right. Good to see
Good
you.
to see you too. This warms my heart to have you here.
Yes, thank you for asking me. I'm honored. I'm so excited.
Definitely. So, Rachel, before we get into it, you want to give the people a quick synopsis of who you are and a lot of things. I gave them a quick intro, but you want to kind of deep dive a little bit into what you do and what inspired you to do the work that you do.
I'm mycelium. So I like to think of like uh that idea of creating threads of connection and nourishment. And so yeah, I sort of have started thinking of myself as mycelium because that feels like uh how I show up in life, and it sort of intersects with all the different places and spaces that I offer share practice, to offer music as healing, to share the beautiful practice of yoga, to be in spaces where we can be real with one another and help regulate and co-regulate together. So that's basically, and often I think of um, some of the places and spaces I show up as having spiritual play dates with people too, if that makes any
Definitely.
sense.
Yes. I mean, you always create a safe and welcoming space for everyone that joins. She has a Saturday class and also dance classes outside, moving and dancing and just having fun as a collective. And it's wonderful. You made me feel welcome when I first joined your class, which I was introduced by Pamela Stokes Eggleston, and it was amazing. And I so what inspires you to get into this practice of being a healer and connecting people?
Hmm.
What inspires you to do this?
I think, like many people, I'm a wounded healer. Um, I didn't grow up knowing how to regulate my central nervous system. Um, I didn't grow up like many of us. No one teaches us what to do with suffering. you know so when you learn to find tools, um it's not about just keeping them for yourself, right? It's about how can this be available and utilized. I mean, you probably can relate when you're with people and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, and all you're doing is sharing breath work. you know but it's so sacred to breathe with people. It's such a simple act, but it's so um, it's so sacred. So I think it just, for many of us, it's just a natural extension when we're on this path and we find tools that support us, that we want to really, especially in communities where we have an affinity, we want to share these beautiful practices of healing. And um, I feel like healing is something we do personally, but there's something that is just exponentially enlarged when we're in spaces and we're healing alongside one another.
Exactly. I think we all share, we've all dealt with our, suffering or trauma, and and we want to create service, continued service to others. It helped us, so we want to share this with others. You're doing remarkable work, and now what do you feel, because also you're a business owner, entrepreneur
Right.
doing work. um as a woman in this industry, what do you feel was one of the hardest adversities you faced dealing in the industry as an entrepreneur?
I think people want you to give it away,
Mm,
and there's, I feel like that is challenging often. Um, and being seen as a professional, like often, like I was just in a meeting in my community and I'm like looking around the table and I'm just like, okay, I don't fit in with any of these people, just with the work that I do. But seeing ourselves, the imposter syndrome that shows up, seeing ourselves as valuable, seeing without elevating ourselves, being able to see the value. So it's sort of like I'm always wanting to find that space that's a balance between confidence and humbleness in this work. And I have really come a long way from saying yes to everything to only, being able to understand, not so much even like, oh, this is something that'll make me a lot of money, but this is something that feels like in alignment with my values.
excellent. And that's true. That's true. It's, I guess, and there's a lot of passion behind this work that you do, because a lot of people do stuff because they have to, but you
Right.
find the love and the passion, and be able to support yourself and others at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
And which brings us to this amazing book. It might be like too bright, so you can't see it well, but this amazing book here, you might can show it on your side. But she wrote a book called "Blessings Beyond Bypass: Tender Medicine for Hard Times" by Rachel Allen. It's an amazing read, and there's so many different things that you can use for breath work, retreats, circles, and just to, especially with COVID and how so much, the rating of people dealing with anxiety, depression, seasonal has skyrocketed. And this book came right on time for people that are going through different things. It's very soothing. Can you talk to us about the inspiration behind the book and
Sure.
what made you decide to, bring this to the table?
Yeah, thank you so much, and I appreciate your support of this work. And this came from my own practice. It wasn't like I had this intention. I do write, but I didn't have an intention when I was writing this particular body to create a body of work out of it. It was more or less a practice during the times that were the most, and at least in my own experience, were the most challenging during COVID, from the fall of 2020. I think the summer, when the virus hit in March, we had spring and summer and everybody was getting outside and it was still challenging, but we were outside, and nature has just such a profound effect on our nervous system. But this was like moving later into like right before the election, where there was just so much polarization and it was getting darker and colder. And I would sit at night and I would just like let everything sort of land in my body, and it was sort of like doing despair work. And in that space of being in the face of these challenges, really rooting myself, like, well, where are my supports? What are my supports? What is the wisdom that I draw from? you know um I spent a lot of time in the warmer season sitting on my front porch, on my porch swing, and there's a giant white oak tree across the street from my house, and which is a sacred tree in the Celtic cosmology. And this tree is in a parking lot. You know, it wasn't planted in a parking lot. It's in this parking lot. It actually has a sign like nailed to it that says cameras watching, no parking. But this tree is like this magnificent giant oak that like towers over this domed church roof, and ravens nest on it, and I
Wow.
collect the acorns and the leaves in the fall, and I would just sit and like look at this tree and say, okay, you've survived the 3 major floods that have been in my community. This is your second pandemic. You know, so much in the world has changed, and here you are thriving in a parking lot. So I would
Exactly.
just like sit and like infuse myself with this tree. And so my writing came from a lot of like just like the text of the Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga Sutras, Jesus, you know, the oak tree, you know, other teachers and influencers, and just like, you know, when we have these teachings, reminding ourselves that they're like metabolized and assimilated into our lives. And they're not just like something to intellectualize and memorize and file away, but they're like, how can our thoughts, words, and actions extend from, you know, these wisdom teachings that we have um, hopefully digested, metabolized, and assimilated into our lives. And so it came from that. Yeah, that's where it came from.
No, it's beautiful. There's so many lessons in nature. The fact of the symbolism was behind the tree and how it thrived through all these different things. Just like us, you know, we've been through some of the worst situations, but we're still here.
Right.
And that comes to this affirmation that says, "I'm going through every experience, whether it's good or bad. We're always growing."
Mm,
And we find lessons in some of the craziest situations. So I love the fact of this book. There are some pieces in there that are just so lovely to me. There's one right here where it says blessing for deep time. Would you like to read that piece, because you have a lovely voice.
mm. Oh, thank you.
um
Yeah,
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 this is a
okay.
beautiful piece right here. I would like you guys to hear this beautiful piece. And just the way she read it, it just kind of soothes your soul. So just take a moment to just listen to this piece right here. This is page number 2, Blessings for Deep Time.
So may you root in deep time that holds awareness of the present moment, draws from evolutionary wisdom and future possibility. May you be reminded that this planet is over 4 billion years old. May you find your place in the heroine's journey of your time. May your visions and dreams carry hope. May you practice the art of mercy in waking life. May you behold the whole life cycle of the plant that exists in the seed. May you witness old souls in the eyes of babes. May you plant trees as an elder. May you know that on the other side of chaos is the lyrical, sweet song of resilience.
Mm, wow. Your voice is just beautiful. The imagery, you can put yourself in there. One thing I love is like when you tell the story, even in this short piece, you're guided through different emotions, different almost you can smell the smells, you
Mm,
know, you can see and visualize. So the imagery is just so beautiful in this piece. There's other pieces in this book. But it's something like, you know, to throw in your bag, and you know, a warm summer day, you know, or you're drinking your chai tea, or if
mm,
you're having a retreat, or you're just having one of your power circles. It's something to definitely reach, and just, you know, something to really nest in the heart. It's a
mm.
beautiful, beautiful book.
Thank you.
And it's been getting rave reviews.
Well,
Definitely.
I've been really so humbled by how my community has received this, and I've been invited to share these blessings in some really vulnerable spaces. And
Mm,
this past since it was released, and I was invited to at a memory walk for those who have lost loved ones to suicide. I read and Transgender Remembrance Day at an event that was a fundraiser for a program that tends to children in grief.
mm,
And I just read one is in a celebration, a celebratory the aspect for African American women that were honored in my community this past week. So I've been able to use these in really great profound settings in community, and that to me is like they're utilitarian, like you were just saying, like they're meant to be, taken out and used and carried around and shared. And yeah, medicine bundles.
yes. Did you think that it was gonna like be like received this well?
I've never done anything like this before. Like this is my first. I've written in literary magazines, um, and that's a whole different world. And this, yeah, I was, I have to say, I was a little nervous. Um, and it's one of those things with writing. It's such a solitary endeavor. You're doing it like I'm doing it with. I feel like I have my committee of spiritual stuff around me, but it's a really solitary endeavor. So when you're sharing your work and your words, and you just don't know how they're going to be received. You know how it felt when you were writing, but yeah, it's really vulnerable.
Definitely. And talking about vulnerability, sometimes it's hard to just because that's a piece of you. Even your journey to where you're at now, like you went through a lot. A lot of people see the glitz and glam of everyone, but they don't know the things that you went through. You went through a lot, to get to where you're at. Just fighting different obstacles, but you have been here to, help people, change people's lives, and you continue to be at service to so many people. What do you want people to take away from this book?
Hmm. I think we have to get underneath the noise.
Mm,
I feel like it's really easy, and it's we're wired in our nervous systems to be like really reactionary. But and I don't like the language of sides because I think it's not helpful. There's something underneath, because when it comes to things like homophobia and racism, there are no sides. you know there's not, that language is not helpful. um but like, can we get underneath and be willing to like feel the vulnerability to find our humanity? We can't bypass the obstacles that are there, right? That's why the book is called Blessings Beyond Bypass. And I think in spiritual circles, and I know we've had this discussion before, like a lot of times people just want to be like, hey, it's unicorns and rainbows, and let's not mention that there's difference, or that there's obstacles that prevent all beings from able to access resources to thrive, live free and safe, and navigate freely in their bodies as they show up and live in peace. So how can we hold space for the enormity of that, as well as like working to fully embody our humanity? That's the space I'm always like, that there's an edge there that I'm always leaning into. It's not a comfortable space, but it's one that's really um it's a container of really fierce tenderness.
that's beautiful. That's definitely beautiful. Now, when we talk about culture, you have your connection with your Celtic culture, those different things. How does that impact you? With your teachings, with how you interact. How does that impact you in your work?
Hmm. I think like the cosmologies that we are drawn toward, whether that be the Celtic cosmology, whether that be the yogic understanding of the world, and sometimes we have entryways into several of those, and we find places where they intersect and they make sense. It's a way of making sense of the world. It's a way of making sense of the world that is beyond the tangible, what we see. And I think it draws from like our evolutionary wisdom of our ancestors. and the collective, whether that be like blood lineage, but I think a lot of us that work in the healing, we're tapping into the evolutionary wisdom of healers in general, whatever cosmology they might be from. But I think it's something that I pay attention to, and am informed by, and I think many of us are learning. We're able to access teachings and learnings now with uh, being able to access programming in other parts of the world and learn from teachers, and so a lot of some of that wisdom has been like filtered through like um, the colonial powers and powers of domination that have
Mhm.
sort of prevented people from accessing that wisdom, and that is shifting now. So
Yes.
I feel like it's like a wellspring of welcomed awareness that has been there's been so many obstacles for so long, and now those obstacles are shifting, and sometimes there's more pushback from those, but the availability, I think, is really beautiful, and I think, as many folks are wanting to make that availability to people regardless of like income. There's like a lovely thing that's happening in a lot of these communities that are sharing cosmologies and wanting access points for people that might not have access points otherwise. And I love that, like, that approach.
I love that, making things more accessible, because at one point it we both know, it was like it had to be like the elites, people that, at one point, and now that, people are getting access to these this beautiful teachings, and also reconnecting with our heritage and our ancestors, because a lot of people were disconnected. So and which is draws a lot of power, wisdom, and just find a connection for ourselves, in this crazy world,
Mm.
our interconnection. Now, switching over, you're an amazing teacher. You teach about trauma. You have trauma informed classes, providing space to help people, teachers and different organizations, on how to interact with someone that deals with trauma, or to at least be have an awareness of trauma.
Mhm.
You give a lot of the history of trauma, different levels of complex trauma, and talking about, because people don't even realize that giving birth is trauma itself, which I
Mhm.
love that you identified that, racism, different things that come up, um, and in your class, you deep dive into it. It's so informative. Um, I think it's something that definitely, no matter if whatever industry you have, people should be trauma informed, because if we look at it, everybody's had their own, even if they feel like they haven't dealt with it, there might have been some, but it might have been locked away. But
Right.
everyone has, they don't have to serve in the military like I did, so everyone has their own little form of PTSD or trauma in some sort. So especially with corporate America also, because people identifying their triggers and everything. Can you talk to us a little bit more about, your trauma classes, and like, getting access to those things too?
Mm. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. So that awareness of how having agency in our own bodies can really integrate our nervous systems was life changing for me, because it happened to me in my own body, and I was like, "What is this fresh heaven that I never knew?" Right? Yeah, that it's like such a simple but complex practice. Yeah, I had my own experience of like coming home to myself in my body, which I didn't recognize how alienated I was until I was like, "Oh, there you are." That little voice said to me, "Oh, there you are." And that practice of coming home to oneself and finding refuge in our own selves, and finding ways to create supportive relationships so we can co-regulate, because one of the things about trauma that we know is that it's the absence of feeling worthy of care, or the absence of feeling any sort of worth or value. Those are some markers, and being able to sort of shift that in supportive it was like, I think we both have very much like an ecological view of trauma, and understanding like how that healing needs to happen, just not with the individual, but like the systems that exist,
Yes.
and ahimsa, the foundation of yoga, actively seeking to root out causes of harm. So there's like so many different levels that we can talk about trauma healing, and the individual level is necessary, but so is the level um, that there are systems that continue to perpetuate and harm. And for myself, I work within systems and I work to disrupt systems. I
Mm-hmm.
work within I have partnerships with a bunch of organizations, but one that's like ongoing and regular for the past decade is Victim Services Incorporated, and they deal with domestic violence, sexual assault, and other layers of trauma, including systemic trauma. And so working within that system to help support, I have a weekly class and we have different ongoing programming. And I just love that work. I love the individuals that show up in those spaces. It's such a powerful, ongoing relationship that I have with that organization and the people that they serve. And I think working outside systems, with organizations like that I belong to, like Unity Coalition, where we're um, doing direct action, we're doing education, and we're working to shift languaging in our community. We're working to leverage and center margins. So there's ways, I think, when we're talking about trauma, there's like looking at within systems within, and then working externally to disrupt systems that are perpetuating. So it's definitely and I think there's a lot of really learning to use language in a way that gives consent, that is, there's just a lot of things that we can learn in all of these different areas of life, learning to listen deeply. Sometimes I think, uh, the way that we're wired, or not wired, the way that we've been socialized to like conduct business, in the world of corporate life or even nonprofit life, you have meeting after meeting after meeting. I'm like, that's violent. That's violent. Like nobody's getting like physically harmed, but I mean, sometimes there's no real interaction happening. You know,
Yes.
so the healing of trauma, I think also like one of the things that I'm becoming more aware of is, niceness is not a thing. It
Mm.
sugarcoats and like hides and just serves, we're taught it's not nice to talk about race. It's not nice to talk about religion or politics. So nobody knows how to have conversations about those things. So the opposite of niceness is not rudeness. It's being direct, but having an awareness of consent, having an awareness of ahimsa and satya, non-harming and truth. So like learning to have a way of our thoughts, words, and actions coming from not like what I'm expected to say or do, but what is really rooted in this idea of non-harming that can be grounded in compassion while actively seeking to remove the causes of harm, and doing that in truth that's not about self-righteousness or call out culture or anything like that. And it's a growing edge for me. That's an edge that I'm learning about in myself.
No, you're doing a wonderful job with that, and I mean, what you just shared is very possible, powerful because of the fact that all the things that we're dealing with now, we need disruptors because the old way is not working.
Right.
And these things have been highlighted through the pandemic and stuff even more. Before, you could put on a mask, but now that a lot of people don't even know how to interpersonal connection, like you said. People are so used to texting, not seeing people face to people. Came out the pandemic and they didn't even know how to talk to people anymore.
Right.
It was it's crazy, but what you're saying is true. And as we continue to grow, as we all continue to heal, especially with this Gen Z now, they are definitely changing the dynamic of the way
We both have a Gen Z, so I know
yeah,
what you're
exactly.
talking about. And
We
they're
have
so comfortable about, I mean, they're not, I don't want, maybe not word comfortable isn't appropriate. They are they have resourced themselves to have difficult conversations. Like
exactly.
my daughter and her friends, they don't abide by, oh, it's not nice to talk about that. Like they are fierce, and really they're disruptors, but they're not like caught up with the false urgency that capitalism is like like socialized into many of us of I'm Gen X, but yeah, they have a different energy about them. They're not like we're not gonna work 50 hours a week. We're not gonna like do the grind thing. They're like, my time is my time. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Coming from them.
Exactly. Some of the things, there's some things that I love about them, and some of them, I shake my head out, but most of them is like, I wish we knew some of the stuff. We had the gusto that they had. We had a bit of it as Gen X, even though they're trying to classify me, but I believe I am a Gen X because I'm an MTV kid. So yeah, exactly, right? So we wanted to change the world. They want to change the world, but they're real, they're honest about it, and they're dismantling, these hierarchies, and exposing things for what they are. And I love it. I'm here for it. I'm excited about it. Now, the next question I want to ask you is, if you could write a letter to the younger version of you, what would you tell her?
Oh my gosh. You're gonna make it.
Oh, holding you in that space, sis.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too. Thank you. Yeah, I'm learning to look at that young person with more compassion instead of shame. I'm still unpacking that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is a really rich space of growth for me, and
Mm-hmm.
very vulnerable, as you can tell.
Yeah. But you have done so well. You've been working on it. And I think all of us, have been, just looking at that younger version of ourselves. And I think she would be so proud of you. This
Mm,
this version of you right now, you're doing amazing work. You've accomplished so many things that she never even thought, could
mm.
happen. So yeah, if you could just tell her three things, what would you tell her?
Well, one of the things that came up for me, and I've never talked about this before. When I was younger and there was just like chaos and lack of stability all around me all the time, I always imagined this older woman that's probably me, that was like kind and listened to me and was confident, and she knew how to ride a bike really well because I was really awkward. Um, yeah, and I think that was actually me imagining me. But I think I would tell that young girl that, you are enough. You are going to make it, and you're going to like rock the shit out of life.
Definitely. And you sure did. You sure did. You did it. And we are so proud of you, in the
Mm.
tribe, in the community, because you are an amazing gift. And we're so grateful that you are here.
Mm. Right back at you. Right back at you. So blessed to know you and Lola.
Yeah, and little man, oh, she's a dog mommy too. Oh, her dog is so cute. Um,
We love our
and
dog.
yes, and the dogs, they're just they're humans. I don't care what anybody says. They're just, they're little and bring us so much joy. And I just want to say thank you to you, Rachel, for just doing the work that you do. And I wanted to highlight you because you have touched my heart. You have touched many people's hearts. So just to talk about your impact and what you're doing in the community, I see the people's lives that you have changed. So I would just want to honor you and give you your flowers, this
Mm.
month. And I don't know if you all know, but this woman has an angel's voice, okay, and she can play the harp. And I don't know if she'll have a time to just share with us a little bit of your harp. Um, Yay! So you're going to hear
No.
the musical stylings of Rachel Allen on our
Well, I'm
harp.
gonna play a song that you always comment on because you said it said you told me before that it brings you good memories.
Yes. Oh my
So
God. I just thought, I said I hope she plays it. I heard this song when I was little.
'tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we are to be. When we find ourselves in a place just right, it'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be a delight, for by turning we come round right.
Oh my God.
That is for you, my dear friend, and you're such a generous heart, and you know that you're sharing your platform and leveraging your community to highlight other women. I just want to honor you. You are a
Oh,
light. You are just a heart with arms and legs, and you're like fierce. And I just love you so much.
oh, I love you too. Oh my God. I'm having a moment here. Oh God. Oh, I just love, words can't even describe how much I love Rachel. She is an amazing gift to the world. And I hope you are able to log on and check out all the amazing services that she provides. And just once you meet her, you're just gonna fall in love with her. I mean, you might love her right now, listening to this interview, but you're amazing, Rachel. For people to check out all your contact, social media, website, give it to the people so they can check you out.
Okay, do I type that in the chat?
Oh no, you just say it to them. Just tell them.
Oh, sure. All right. Yeah. Okay. My website is yogasong.net. So you can find me there, www.yogasong1word.net. I'm on Facebook with Yoga Song and Instagram at Rachel Yoga Song. And yeah, I have a YouTube
Everything.
channel, so
Yeah.
it's not very professionally done, but I started doing a lot of things during COVID and wanted to have people to have access to practice. So not about perfection, although I could get a little better with the production part.
No, it's great. It's wonderful. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be good enough, and you already are. So you can
Mm.
Google everything, Rachel Song, Yoga Song, all over. You can find her, Rachel Allen. If you Google her, she'll pop up. So follow all of her contacts and you'll be connected. It's all about interconnection. Life might throw you a curveball, but remember, you're in charge of the direction it goes.
Hmm.
Love you all. And I'm just so grateful to be in practice and be in fellowship with this beautiful, amazing queen. Thank you all. Don't forget to check out She Wins Network, empowering women through their journey.
Through their journey.
Yes. All right, y'all. Stay tuned. We have more amazing queens this today. Actually, we have more. So we're gonna go ahead and show this again. And yeah, signing off.